Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm going to give you a slightly biased review because I am driving right now one of my all-time favourite hot hatches. This is the Suzuki Swift Sport, now with a 48-volt hybrid, making it more economical as well as lots of fun. And before we get on with the review, if you could take a moment to hit the subscribe button, I would be very grateful indeed. Maybe even hit the bell notification. Now on with the review. Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and this right here is one of my favourite hot hatches in the world. They call it a warm hatch at Suzuki, but no, I'm going to call it a hot hatch because it's just so much fun. If you're looking for a car which just embodies the simple joy of driving and engaging with the vehicle, look no further because this is it. Let's take a look around and see what the 2021 car brings us. Now, the Swift range was completely redesigned and refreshed from the ground up about 2-3 years ago, built on a new platform called the Hartec platform, which incredibly it's shared with things like the Ignis, which are totally different from this, but still share the same basic underpinnings. Very different character entirely though. Now, it's very cold out here, so I'm going to tell you the rest from the driver's seat. The entire range of Swifts was completely redesigned. It became a little bit larger and the edges and creases became a little bit softer, but the Sport in particular gained a little bit more edge than before. The nose of the Sport is unique in the range, being slightly longer and being more aggressively styled with carbon fibre effect trim around the front. That carbon effect trim is also repeated down here on the side sills and at the back on the splitter below the rear bumper, which houses twin tailpipes for the Sport's exhaust. Again, all unique to the Sport. The headlamps and tail lamps are quite tall, stacked items. They've grown again from the previous generation, but like the rest of the Swift range, they're interesting to look at and packed with character. On this model, we get the black ABC pillars combined with the privacy glass around the back to give the floating roof effect. Again, making the whole car just look a bit more edgy and sporty. And a step up from the rest of the range, this Sport gets 17-inch alloys. Now, another step up from the rest of the Swift range is the hybrid system. The rest of the Swifts use a 12-volt IGS integrated generator starter. This uses a 48-volt system, so 4 times the power. Well, it doesn't quite work that way, but a lot more power. What this means is that when the car needs an extra boost, it has that on tap from a belt drive system. And that can give an extra 235 Newton meters of torque instantly from below 2,000 RPM up to 3,500 RPM. So if you need a bit of grunt in a hurry, it's there for you. And then during braking and deceleration and so forth, that then puts that power back into the lithium batteries, which are hiding under the front seats for good weight distribution. The entire system weighs about 15 kilos, and in fact the entire car only weighs 1,000 kilos. So although the output is just 129 bhp, that's actually quite a lot per tonne, and the car just feels so nimble and rapid on the road. Pocket rocket is a phrase we were trying to avoid using when we're driving it. All of that hybrid technology is centred around this 1.4 litre booster-jet 4-cylinder petrol turbo engine. It's a VVC variable valve timing unit, and the WLTP CO2 figures are 125 grams. So let's step inside the Sport and see how it looks. Now, although we have much of the same basic structure as the rest of the Swift range, this has been sprinkled with a special Szechuan sauce, and so this thing does have a look and feel of a car far more exciting than the rest of the range. Now, starting over in the door, we have the same basic plastic and fabric areas, but we have this rather exciting red to black blended colour strip, making the whole thing look a little bit more interesting and exciting. We also have electric windows in the rear, where the mid-range cars only get wind-up windows in the back. And we have electric power fold mirrors too, so we can fold them in at will. Moving into the dashboard, we now have start-stop rather than an ignition key. And we now have these rather exciting colour-faced dials with a metallic sheen underneath. The rev counter has a metallic red, which looks very, very exciting indeed. Redlining at 6 and a bit, going all the way to 8,000. This engine, a bit of a screamer. On the right-hand side, it's more of a graphite grey silver for the speedometer. Both those dials have the sub-dials for the temperature and the fuel gauges built into them, so looking quite fun and swank. And as I said, on the 1.2 version, we have these Alfa Romeo-ish style forward-facing cowlings with the silver edges. Makes the whole thing feel very sporty and rock, as it's intended to. Very cool indeed. Moving back, the Sport gets its own unique steering wheel, which is a bit chunkier, leather-clad, contrast red stitching on the black leather, and a shiny piano black bit at the bottom, on a flat base as well. And of course, lots of controls and things for stuff. It's got adaptive cruise and the emergency braking systems, all that kind of stuff. That's built in over there. Audio controls are built in over there. And horn test, of course. Poppy. And before we move across to the main dash, let's take a moment to look at the pedals, which are these rather exciting metal and rubber grippy sports things which look pretty cool. They're well spaced and good size. My size 11 clodhoppers fit on them quite well, and also they're well spaced for a little bit of heel and towing if you want to go down that route. Now in the middle we've got an epic T-shelf, as on all Swifts, plenty of room for snacks, drinks and so forth, but as I mentioned on the 1.2 version of this car, no drip restraint, so if you spill your tea it will go straight into your lap, so be warned on that aspect. In the centre we've got more of this red to black blend, interesting contrast plastic which looks really cool. I do like the libel vents a la a 1980s Italian sports car, another Italian themed fun item just there. And we've got the big doubled in full colour screen, DAB radio, Bluetooth to connect to your phone for telephony if you want to, or full smartphone link with CarPlay and Android Auto if you want. And of course there's sat-nav built in as well. So lots of stuff just there. Heating and ventilation is on proper dials, which I like, rather than irritating stuff on a screen. Moving down, matching these round circular styling items, we've got a couple of covers hiding power outlets, full 12-volt fag lighter thing on the left, USB to hook up your smartphone, and a 3.5mm headphone jack on the right. Got a storage bin down there, which is just big enough for your iPhone. You've got a couple of cup holders down here, which are big enough for cups. They are a little low on access, so if you've got a very tall cup, you might struggle getting out of there, but the McDonald's milkshakes issue, McDonald's coffee, no problem. That's surrounded by more of this rather fun colour blend plastic, red to black again. Now moving up from this red and black leatherette gator, we have something very exciting. 6-speed manual gear shift. It's been reworked for I think a 10% shorter throw on the gear change than the previous version. It's a really, really nice gear shift. And apparently the engineers also worked on the clutch throw and weight as well. So the whole system works together to give you a really nice interaction with the car, make it really, really fun to be driving this car. Moving back into the seats, they are far more sporty and buckety than the rest of the range. Very tall headrest, a little bit of sport logoage down there, and then huge, and then big bolsters, so you are gripped firmly in place. And then during spirited driving, fast cornering, all that kind of stuff, you can actually enjoy this car a lot. And this seat with its little red inserts matching the doors and the other colour contrast insert moments will keep you nicely in place. Nice bolsters at the bottom as well, so you're going nowhere. The only thing I can see missing on the spec of this car is where I imagine would be heated seats, which this one hasn't had spec'd. The Swift is only available as a 5-door now. Previously it was a 3-door on the Sport. Now it's a 5-door only across the entire range, but hidden with this black area and the privacy glass to try and pretend it's a 3-door. Works quite effectively. Big aperture to get in if you want to climb into the back. Lots of room in here. Lots of headroom, lots of knee room, lots of foot room. Everything is extremely comfortable for the rear seat passengers. It's a little bit tight if you try and put 3 people in here. It's not really wide enough, but if you've got 3 kids, they will fit in without too much trouble. Amenity wise, you've got a cup holder in the centre, single backrest map pocket, and you've got a cup holder in each door. So 3 cup holders, 3 people, everyone's going to be happy. And something you do notice when you're sitting in the Swift, particularly in the back, is just how much headroom there is in here. It's a really quite tall car, so you can avoid the need for a horrible SUV by buying yourself a lovely Swift. Now, if you're looking for a compact with a boot that goes rapidly, this is the place to be. The load space is more than adequate. You've got a curry hook, got a lamp, 60/40 split fold seat, so you can make it more practical. You're going to struggle to fit a washing machine in there, but your average weekend away or week's shopping will be swallowed quite happily. It goes down a long way, so big heavy things might be a bit of a pain to get over this lip, but other than that we're good. At least your oranges won't roll on the floor when you're unloading. Under the carpet we have got an inflaty kit, not a rear spare wheel. Looks like you might be able to get a space saver in there if you find one off eBay or something. I would heartily recommend that. And that, my friends, is the boot. Right, we're away from the car park, but a nice open lane. Let's go and take the Swift Sport for a drive. And they've worked so hard on this generation to keep that rawness, that edge, that sportiness, but at the same time refine it and make it more comfortable to be in on like a motorway journey or a long trip. For example, they've reworked the suspension just a little bit. They've put thicker anti-roll bars in, they've changed the distances between bearings and that kind of stuff, which means that the ride is a little bit stiffer, but the springs are not a stiffer rate, so you get a harder ride without the hardness. The steering is as sharp as ever. It does feel a little heavier, to be honest, than the regular cooking models. That might be because it's got the bigger, wider wheels on the other end. It may be because they've engineered the rack a little bit differently. I'm not 100% sure on that. The gear change, though, has been reworked along with the clutch pedal to make changing gear an absolute joy every time. It's a shorter throw, it's light, it's smooth, it's got a nice mechanical clicking feeling as you go from one gear to the next. At less than 1,000 kilos, it is just so light and nimble on the road. It feels, I hate to use the word go-kart-like, but it really is go-kart-like in its nimbleness and its lightness and its feeling of connectedness to the driver. This is one of my all-time favourite hot or warm hatches because it just doesn't mollycoddle you and cosset you the way that a lot of other cars do. They separate you from the road. This doesn't. You can feel what's happening under the wheels. The engine, even with the hybrid system, which does give you instant power as it should, has a nice edgy little grr, a growl, a gruff sound to it. This does have the lane departure warning system on it, as every car does have to now to pass NCAP. However, it's not as intrusive as a lot of systems because it's not yanking the wheel all over the place like so often they do. This one just flashes and alerts you on the dashboard. Driving down a country lane like this, often the white lines really confuse those systems, and it can be almost dangerous driving a car which tries to steer correct for you. Making this car drive safely as well as being lots of fun, we've got all the technology and gadgets you could want. We've got adaptive cruise, brake assist, blind spot warning in the mirrors. But really, the thing that is just so fantastic about these cars is the way they drive. The steering just connects with you instantly. The pedals are light. The gear change just makes you want to just change gear constantly because it just feels so good each time you swap cogs on it. And because it's not huge power, 129 bhp, it's good power per tonne, but you don't have to be going ridiculously fast to really be enjoying the road. We're not in supercar territory where you're going to lose your licence. You can be driving down a road like this under the limit and still be having a great time. It is a fast car, but it feels quick and nimble, even at lower speeds. Performance-wise, it's perhaps more of a warm hatch than a hot hatch. 0 to 60, 9 seconds, top speed 130, which is actually quite good for a car this size. But thanks to that hybrid technology in the front, or underneath me in fact, it'll still do 50 to the gallon and gets 125 grams CO2 per kilometre WLTP, which means it does pretty well on the road tax front and emissions as well. Now ask any survey and you'll find that Suzuki come out right at the top of most reliability and customer satisfaction surveys. They do build their cars rather well, and this one is assembled in Japan. But the thing I find so appealing about this car is that although it's brand new, it's got all the tech you'd expect to have in it, and the reliability of course as well, and the efficiency. But it has a certain raw quality which a lot of other cars have had polished out of them, which makes them feel a bit less connected to the driver, a bit less like they want to talk to you. Whereas this still has that feel of like a 1990s hot hatch which just engages the driver and makes it so much fun to be a part of the experience driving it. And it does ride and handle vastly better than any 1990s hot hatch. I will not be taking questions about this. So how hard will it hit you in the wallet to get into one of these things? Well, surprisingly not too much. 20,570 quid will see you in the driving seat of a Swift Sport, which for this kind of technology, performance and fun factor is actually pretty good. And that firmer, more grown-up rider handling does make this a really good all-rounder. If you've got to do a lot of time on a dual carriageway or a motorway, this is still a comfortable place to be. It's not bone-jarringly hard, and it's not jittery either. It's just a nice, comfortable ride. And with the power from the 1.4 VVC and the hybrid system, even at speeds around say 50 or 60. If you need that overtaking surge, you've got it. It's not like a small car that's going to struggle to get past the truck in front. This is one of those cars where if I had to pick like a 3-car or a 5-car garage, regardless of the money, this is one of the cars that would find its way in there, because it's just such a great all-rounder. It's a practical daily if you need a practical daily. It's a fast, fun, hot hatch, which you can have a lot of fun with, even at sensible speeds. Or if you want to go on a track day or something, you can use it for that as well. It would definitely find a place in my garage. Well, thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed coming with me for a drive in this cracking little Suzuki Swift. I hope you maybe have become as much of a fan as I have after watching this. And as always, please hit like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this, and join me again next time driving something completely different.